My very first smartphone was the original Motorola Droid that came out in 2009. Since then, there have been many variations of phones released by Motorola, and I've been using one of their newest devices, this year's pseudo Flagship Edge Plus that retails for $600 US. There are so many things I liked about this phone and a few things that almost felt like deal breakers. I'm Lida from the Sypnotix. Let's take a closer look. On first impression, the Edge Plus 2022 has classic smooth curves and a subtle gradient color embossed over their signature M logo across the back of the device. This version we're reviewing is the Cosmos blue color, but there's also a Stardust white variant as well. The phone doesn't stand out in a sea of smartphones, but it's well built, sturdy in the hands even though it has a plastic frame, and has a glass back finish to it that feels moderately premium. It's fairly lightweight at 6.91 ounces, making it comfortable to hold for long periods of time. The best word to describe the Edge Plus is professional. The device does have a SIM tray and soft click power and volume rockers. You're greeted with an always-on display that unlocks via the right side fingerprint sensor embedded into that power button. It's also a little bit slippery in the hands, so I recommend a case for those users with butterfingers. With a 6.7-inch 1080 by 2400 pixel display that features an OLED display, good for 393 ppi, this 20:9 aspect ratio and 144 Hz refresh rate combination has relatively vibrant colors that really make this device great for entertainment. I've been able to watch hours of Netflix on it without any issues, and I felt immersed with the viewing angles and media experience thanks to the almost non-existent bezels. The bottom-facing stereo speakers are loud and clear, even in bustling locations. Keep in mind there's no 3.5mm headphone jack, so if you're connecting to devices, your only option is via Bluetooth 5.2, which works great, by the way. The one annoyance I had with the display was that the automatic screen brightness worked terribly and would often blind me as I was waking up in the morning and turn my phone on for the first time. This year's Motorola Edge Plus features this flagship Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 and ranges in memory options from 8GB of RAM to 12GB and 128GB of storage up to 512. This particular version has 8GB of RAM and 512GB of storage. It also runs Android 12 but has a planned upgrade to Android 13. One of the best aspects of Motorola devices is that there's really limited bloatware and skin modification. In many ways, you feel like you're using a Pixel device that's just slightly different. You don't feel like you have a million apps on your phone when you've started it up for the first time. That being said, the Edge Plus performed well enough for my day-to-day lifestyle, but there were some moments that made me hesitate from fully relying on this device as an everyday carry permanently. While it did hold up for the most part, there were a significant number of situations where apps would just suddenly lock up. There is noticeable lag when switching between apps in these scenarios. This didn't happen on a regular basis, but frequent enough for me to know and feel as though I had to be aware of my app routines when using the device. Keep in mind, I use the same app suites that typically work on every device I've used so far in 2022, whether it would be a mid-tier or flagship phone. Many of my health monitoring apps would just be stuck on a constant loading screen, and nothing else would appear until a soft reset. There were even times, for example, when video chatting in an app like Google Duo, that the phone would just crash and restart on its own multiple times. Now, speaking of calls, call quality was solid overall, and I had no issues with that. I even took the device across the border into Canada and was able to work remotely with the Moto Edge Plus. However, I did notice that even when connected to what was supposed to be a strong Wi-Fi network, the phone would still have issues with connectivity, again, mostly when I was trying to use various video chatting apps. This gets a D in my book, and I was never quite able to figure out why I had the most issues when using my camera and audio simultaneously. This was a bummer as I traveled to both the San Francisco Bay Area and Toronto with this device and had the same issues with video apps. There's potential that this phone was heating up too quickly for those uses compared to other phones. The Edge Plus packs a 4800 mAh battery that is a hefty size for the large screen it powers. I've seen similar battery sizes on other phones like that on the Google Pixel that have lasted much longer in comparison to the battery life on the Edge Plus. There's something to be said about Motorola's software simply not optimizing the battery as effectively as it should be. My day-to-day now includes working from home, so I can keep it plugged in often, but for the couple of weeks that I was traveling with this phone, I had to make sure that I charged it on the plane or kept a portable battery with me for those longer days in transit. What I'm basically saying is that the Edge Plus doesn't last a full day on normal to low usage. But on a good note, the Edge Plus uses fast wireless charging and also features reverse wireless charging as well, although you probably shouldn't use the latter with this battery life. I've gotten close to the advertised 50% in about 15 minutes of charging speed, so even if you are low on battery, it does power up competitively fast. All of this is somewhat livable except for my biggest complaint with the Edge Plus, the camera. First off, it's impossible not to notice the huge lenses staring back at you on the back of the device. Looks are deceiving as they may appear capable, but in reality, they're so disappointing that I left my time with this phone not wanting to take pictures. Keep in mind, I'm someone who loves pulling my phone out to take pictures of my food and dogs. The Edge Plus features a triple rear camera setup with a 50 megapixel wide, 50 megapixel ultra wide, and 2 megapixel depth sensor that shoots at 8K at up to 30 frames per second. There's also a 60 megapixel selfie camera. This seems pretty good on paper, but in reality, I have not used a phone camera this average in a long time. Colors are quite dull, and there seems to be unnecessarily enhanced shadows that make the photos seem unnatural. It's also impossible to focus the sensor onto finer details, as the results often appear grainy and more like a painting than a photo. Photos taken in low light settings perform no better, and portions of the image seem to often come out blurry and unclear. Video quality is also poor and not really up to par with mid-range devices that we've seen. This is a weird situation for the Edge Plus to be in, as it technically has a flagship processor. So if you compare this with other flagship phone cameras in 2022, it comes nowhere near in quality. If this phone was priced somewhere between $300 to $400, I think some users would be okay with the sacrifice in camera performance in order to get that flagship Snapdragon. My honest opinion of this phone is that it is the quintessential definition of average. For $600, the Motorola Edge Plus isn't necessarily cheap, yet it is a pretty low price tag to get a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 phone. You get some upgrades when it comes to build quality and the media viewing experience, but the camera is disappointing and the battery life is just okay at best. In theory, it seemed like Motorola had great fundamentals down, but the actual user experience of the Edge Plus is truly just average and even frustrating at times. This is especially highlighted when it comes to certain apps that I expected to work correctly, as they function perfectly fine on lower processors and should be able to run on an Android flagship chip. For the price range, you can get a much better camera and software experience from a more affordable phone like the Google Pixel 6a. If you pay $100 more, you open up your range to a lot more quality, like an iPhone 14 or a Samsung Galaxy S22. I've been a longtime fan of Motorola phones in the past, but I just don't see enough here to warrant any competition to the big players on the market. I can literally list a handful of better buys than the Motorola Edge Plus. This is, for lack of a better explanation, a paper flagship. I hope this is a wake-up call for them to step up their game and to truly make a flagship phone once again. Let me know what you think of the Motorola Edge Plus in the comments below and what you want to see us review next. Once again, I'm Lida from the Sypnotix, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!
Well, look at that. You made it to the end of the video. Be sure to subscribe, follow us at all our social media links, and also definitely check out our website, Sypnotix.com. You won't regret it.